All right, there's a lot of information here, so I'm going to try to get right into it. Look, man, we know you. I was ahead of this, by the way. A lot of us were, but I'd been talking about this since March, actually February, more so of 2020. And, we got the Twitter files things. You had that transfer of power. You got some kind of collaborations, let's say, between the governments, not just in this country, but around the world, and big tech. And they had a lot to do with a lot of the kind of approach, attitude, culture surrounding COVIDs in the coming years, which led to disastrous results. And I'm not talking about the virus itself. I am talking about the government's response to the virus. So let's just get right into it. More Twitter files drop. Matt Taibbi talks about this, and we're going to go through a lot of this. It says the great COVID-19 lie machine stand for the virality project, the censorship of true stories. Number two, going to it, says the release of Anthony Fauci's spring 2020 emails has been used to exacerbate distrust in Dr. Fauci. And you look at this project briefing couple of years ago, and it says key takeaways. You look at it right here. It says that explicitly that the release of those emails via the Freedom of Information Act is for you. You guys probably remember that. I know we covered it certainly in his attitude and approach, certainly before it really gained ground going into the in America in terms of the spread of this virus, as well as the reaction, and how there were some conflicting thoughts there. And he was talking out of, let's say, both sides of his mouth. And you can see that, again, more of a collaborative effort between the supposed experts to try to, in some way, shape, or form, suppress people that were bringing this sort of stuff up, which is very important for the country to know. As my dog is yelling, I got a window actually in the back being changed out, so they, of course, don't like when people are around the house. Nonetheless, it also says right here, it says discussion of Fauci's emails also spread in Chinese on Telegram. Like, what is there an issue with these emails were leaked, if you will, or FOIA requested? We saw that, and the fact that there's something wrong with that, more so in what it revealed, is the problem it is that they have. Another takeaway says these networks are keen to the format, increased distrust in Fauci's expert guidance and in American public health officials and institutions. What's the problem? Yes, you have, again, said something was way more dramatic than what it was, even though initially it didn't seem to be that way. And there was a lot of people that were, let's say, ahead of the game. And then when there came to the Peter McCulloughs and the Robert Malones of the world that had, and Jay Bhattacharya and all these people, even John Ioannidis, who was published on the WHO, and they were letting people know of, okay, maybe our reaction to this may be detrimental and have some very long-term effects. Of course, there's going to be distrust when they were silent. John Ioannidis, not so much, but these others certainly. And you wanted to write them off as quacks. And when people talked about it, it was spreading of misinformation. And then you have stuff like this. Like, of course, there's going to be distrust in the supposed experts that you were throwing out there that were only just saying the same exact thing, and that was spreading of doom and gloom. Continuing on, reports of vaccinated individuals contracting COVID-19 anyway, natural immunity, suggesting COVID-19 leaked from a lab, even worrisome jokes. And you can see it right here. The conversation, it interpreted to suggest that coronavirus may have leaked from a lab. It's funny because they're now basically conceding that that is exactly what happened. And you're seeing, look who's all a part of this. You have the NCOC, you got Stanford, NYU, that are all in on this, and they're acting as if this is a problem. And, we're looking at it ahead of time, and this is, a lot of this stuff was true. It was true before, obviously, but now they're late to the party and coming around to really conceding that was ever the fact. And again, you have an email. It says, hello, Twitter team. Please find attached the latest weekly briefing from the Virality Project on COVID-19 vaccine and social media narrative. So you had all these guys basically saying, hey, look at us. We got together. This is our briefing and we're sending it to you. Why? Because we want you, of course, to do something about it is essentially what it is. This week was a busy one. We covered a range of topics, including updates on commonplace narratives, the myocarditis situation, Senator Paul's claims about natural immunity, serious side effects. All of these are not a problem unless it's just contrary to the narrative that these supposed experts had been, of course, perpetuating. Continuing on. We have, hold up. As there was more, by the way, there's one I missed, I believe, right here. Yes. They said that this announcement provoked immediate online. This is referring to Jen Psaki announcing that the Biden administration will begin focusing on door-to-door community-based vaccine outreach. It says, including worrisome jokes with violent undertones that suggest that people should respond to official door knocks with hostility, guns, or harassment. How can you say that there will be harassment when you're going door to door to people trying to, let's say, get them to get something that they may not want? You're the harasser right there. If someone responds, they're the responding agency. It's just incredible how these supposed experts always try to present themselves as the victims here. All were categorized as potential violations or disinformation events. When again, a lot of these were true. A sweeping cross-platform effort to monitor billions on social media posts by Stanford University, federal agencies, and a slew of often state-funded NGOs, which that's usually the case. This, of course, can be said about all of these for the most part. Definitely, even with the colleges, we know that a lot of them are state-funded as well. So there you have it. Schellenberger. He says, or just before Schellenberger, and I testified in the House last week. Virality Project emails were found in the Twitter files describing stories of true vaccine side effects. It says true content which might provoke vaccine hesitancy. Viral posts of individuals expressing vaccine hesitancy or stories of true vaccine side effects. So it's basically, hey, they're showing that this is the truth, and it is the truth. But, hey, think about how people might think of it that way, or respond to it in the event that they have been presented with this information that is, in fact, true. This content is not clearly mis or disinformation, but it may be malinformation. Exaggerated or misleading. Okay, so you tell the truth and it's misleading. Misleading to what? Your narrative? These guys are criminals, man. Also included in this bucket are often true posts, which could fuel hesitancy. Okay, so someone has, let's say, a reaction, right, to this jab, right? And it is, let's say, a negative one. And they put that information out there, and that information, of course, gets shared, and people look at that and they say, well, maybe I'll look more into it. And then they come to a conclusion that they're not going to get it. Nothing is irrational about that. Nothing at all is irrational about that. But because they bank so much on this narrative, they, of course, act like it's a damn crime for people to tell the truth. They've learned that this project in 2021 worked with the government to launch a pan-industry monitoring plan for COVID-related content. At least 6 major internet platforms were onboarded to the same JIRA ticketing system, daily sending millions of items for review. So again, you have platforms that are working in combination with the state. Let's just call it what it is. Right? That's actually what fascism is, by the way, when you have that sort of merge of corporate and state. Though the Virality Project reviewed content on mass scale for Twitter, Google, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Medium, and TikTok and Pinterest, it knowingly targeted true material and legitimate political opinion while often being factually wrong itself. And you have some issues right here. You see platforms with final stakeholders in the VP effort. 6 social media platforms engaged with VP tickets, and we just named all of those there, which provided a feedback loop leverage to inform projects' understanding of policies and ongoing outreach. This is the email right here that you see. Apologies for including one TikTok member on the earlier thread. The organization names are alphabetically similar, yada, yada, yada. And you can see Twitter, of course, sending this out to all of these members. Oh, excuse me. Actually, someone from Stanford, sending all of this information out to basically shot callers within the industry Here you got TikTok involved. You got a bunch of Twitter folks actually were involved. I think that was the mistake that they're mentioning right here, that they didn't mean to send that to them. They got it anyway, probably. We also have begun, look at this, says attached to the Virality Project this week, team focused on foreign state-driven conversation about vaccine passports, hesitancy expressed by NBA players, narratives like these guys, and we know who those NBA players were, we covered those. These guys are a freaking trip. Okay, continuing on. I won't continue much longer because you'll start to get the idea here. This story is important for two reasons. One, as Aurelian proof of concept, the Virality Project was a smash success. Government, academia, and an oligarchy of would-be corporate competitors organized quickly behind a secret, unified effort to control political messaging. That's exactly what happened. Two, it accelerated the evolution of digital censorship, moving it from judging truth, untruth to a new, scarier model, openly focused on political narrative at the expense of fact. And that's what it is. They were specifically identifying things that were true. And because it may lead to, or it led to, outcomes that are undesirable for them and their methods, or them and their, let's say, narratives, they targeted that and found that an issue. And this is things that they themselves are admitting were truthful. The beginning on February 5th, 2021, just after Biden took office, Stanford wrote to Twitter to discuss the Virality Project. By the 17th, Twitter agreed to join and got its first weekly report on anti-vax disinformation. This is insane. And again, we only know about this from Twitter because, again, you had the transfer of power, and all of that information is now in the hands of someone that was willing to give it to journalists and other people as it pertains to the actual truths of the matter. So we don't know. Let me say, it's not that we don't know, because we know through this, because they're including all the other platforms that seem to have all as well engaged, let's say, in this sort of suppressing of factual information. They're all in on it. And you see the email right here. Stanford welcomed Twitter veterans, Yoel Roth. We've talked about that clown many times, instructing them on how to join a group like Gyro System. You can watch the friendly welcome video here, and this is a video of them welcoming in freaking Twitter. We are beginning to ramp up our notification process on platforms. This is coming from an email on March 2nd of 2021. In addition to the top 7 platforms, VP soon gained visibility to alternative platforms such as Gab, Parler, Telegram, and Getter, near total surveillance of the social media landscape. And it actually gets worse as you continue to read it. It is a long read, by the way you see it. It says through July 2020, Twitter's internal guidance on COVID-19 required a story to be demonstrably false or contain an assertion of a fact to be action. But the Virality Project, in partnering with the CDC, push different standards, which says, is it advancing a claim of fact regarding COVID-19? There are 3 things to consider. Strong commentary, opinions, and or satire are not subject to this policy. You see it. It must be an assertion of fact, not an opinion. Interesting. Now, the VP told Twitter that true stories could feel hesitancy, including things like celebrity deaths after the vaccine. Stanford vaccine misinformation on your platform. The default post on your platform spreading clearly false, spearing vaccine misinformation that we believe violate your policies. The fact that these guys are all in on this and they're going to these platforms to do this is very, very dangerous, but it really incriminates several people. And yeah, of course, people are going to see this and even have more distrust for these agencies that seem to collaborate with each other. In one email, the VP addressed what it called vaccine passport narrative, saying concerns over such programs have driven a larger anti-vaccination narrative about the loss of rights and freedoms. Well, that's exactly what happened. Why wouldn't it be? Additionally, it says in this email to Twitter, additionally, we'd also like to highlight our recent analysis of the vaccine passport narrative. Like, that's exactly what it led to. People not being able to even have really private property rights, even on their own policies, or their own property, because you even had this in pockets of America where the government was forcing people to have like a proof of vaccination or negative COVID tests and all that to even appear in like their place of business. It was insane how bad it got. Now, thankfully, I was out in Texas, so it never got that bad. But in other pockets of even this country in America, and of course abroad, you did have exactly that. That's exactly what it was. It was a loss of rights and freedoms. And these guys are actually mad that people were either pointing that out. Like, what? They framed real testimonials about side effects as misinformation from true stories of blood clots from AstraZeneca vaccines and New York Times story about vaccine recipients who contracted blood disorder. These are all documented cases. We've covered them where they'll say it's, well, of course, rare, but they are actual things. Now, they're trying to present it as, well, this is a fundamental problem because these are true stories and this may lead to people wanting to not get the jab, which is okay. Here's the truth. You've been presented with it and you make a decision based on that, and they're acting like that's a damn crime. Look, like I said, this thing goes on forever. You know, of like documented cases that they're trying to present as if it's disinformation. And this is this is the point that I was making during this whole thing. Mis and disinformation were not like literal terms. Like, no, they were more so terms that they used that said, okay, any event that it goes to the narrative that we have presented as if it was factual, even though it's not. It's just a bunch of experts, supposed experts, saying that this was what it was, and then denying anything else that existed to the contrary. And that's what they considered exactly that. This just goes to show how criminal these people are. But more importantly, to me, it's frustrating how nothing's going to happen to these guys. Got another one for you in the same deal. This is number 35. It says a Cleveland Clinic study showed previous infection offered the same immunity as the jab, but VP said discovery was subservient to the narrative. Whether or not scientific consensus is changing, natural immunity is key narrative among anti-vaccine activists. So it's like, well, this is true. The people that they like are going to be affirmed. I say this in a lot of different things, but they can't have their ideological enemies be right. So it's worth lying to the public. It's worth suppressing information from the public just to stop a narrative from gaining ground or affirming that their ideological they're not peers, but the people that they hate are correct. You see the evidence of that sort of right here. Takeaways. It says Anthony Fauci, CDC, have recommended that even those previously infected with COVID-19 should receive the vaccine, but there is little information articulating why the vaccine would confer benefits to that group. They knew this. New scientific findings are being leveraged to deepen mistrust in public health experts. It's like, well, look at who it's making look bad. Even though it's the truth, that's the problem. They don't like the fact that they are being discredited. And that's the white pill of it all, is that at minimum, you have a lot of people that are at least looking at these supposed experts with a little more skepticism. It's not as many as I would like it to be, but they're looking at them with a little more skepticism. And they should have. This is insane, man. But you can go read it. It goes on. I don't know how many posts it goes on. It's like almost 50 posts. Yeah, 45 if I'm not mistaken. You can go look and you can see all this evidence of collaborative efforts between tech companies, namely Twitter, these organizations, as well as academia, who are being funded by the state, basically being mad at the damn truth. Wherever you're viewing the content, I appreciate you. If you enjoyed it, you may be interested in my comic book company, Rippaverse Comics. Our first book and campaign, ISOM #1, brought in $3.7 million with tens of thousands of satisfied customers. Visit Rippaverse.com to check out our store and stay up to date with the latest campaigns from one of the hottest new comic book companies. Also, my first big step towards a parallel economy was the development of my personal website, ericdjuly.com. This entirely replaced my Patreon. Now, if you enjoy this content, please consider becoming a member over at the website. We have an ever-expanding list of perks for various membership tiers, a forum, and a phone app. Some of these perks will even benefit you if you're fans of the Rippaverse. Anyway, I appreciate you so much for being a supporter and or customer. I even got a little love for my haters.